This video contains major plot points and spoilers for Persona 5 Royal, so if you haven't beaten the game yet, I highly suggest you go finish the game and then come back and watch this video. Thanks for watching.
Persona 5 has many villains that you take down one by one throughout the game, and while none of them are exactly bad or poorly written, they are to some extent lacking in depth or dimension. For example, the game's first villain, Kamoshida, is a flawed man simply because he's prideful and jealous. He's just overall a pretty bad guy, who only has his own self-interest in mind. It's hard to really see anything from his perspective that gives us an understanding about why he is the way that he is. His actions are almost cartoonish in a way. He provokes Ryuji into attacking him to justify breaking his leg so that the track team doesn't outshine his volleyball team. He also physically abuses students and treats them really badly. Now, this serves as a really good punching bag villain that we're all excited to see fall, and it serves the story by bringing together a few of the first members of the Phantom Thieves. So Kamoshida serves his purpose, but there just isn't any depth to him. One thing that I wanted to mention before I go on is the distinction between a villain and an antagonist. You see, I made a YouTube short earlier this month about this topic, and this was like the #1 comment that a lot of people said. They said that there's a distinction between a villain and an antagonist, which I think is an absolutely valid point. Villains are sometimes just cartoonishly evil, whereas an antagonist is maybe a little bit more developed. He isn't necessarily just pure evil, but he has different motivations that cause conflict with the protagonist. And I think most of the bad guys in Persona 5 lie in that first category. They are villains, which again can kind of work. Like I said, it serves the story decently. It brings the characters together against a common enemy. But for the sake of the rest of this video, I'm just going to continue to use the word villain. I don't think that point needs to continuously be made throughout the video. A great villain that's often brought up as an example of an empathetic villain is of course Thanos in the Marvel movies. Because while we may disagree with how he goes about fulfilling his mission, we can understand his reasoning. He was afraid that overpopulation would lead to resource depletion, so he thought that it would be a good idea to snap half the universe out of existence. A pretty messed up thing to do, but we can understand why he did it, whether or not we agree if it was right or wrong. It's also interesting for us as viewers to see him go down that path to achieve his goals and observe what he's willing to sacrifice to make it happen. Now, when thinking about Kamoshida from the start, we aren't sympathetic to his reasoning. It's not for the perceived greater good of all, it's all self-centered and ego. And very few of us could actually see ourselves doing something so drastic for such petty reasons. And like I mentioned, this goes for a lot of the villains in Persona 5. They aren't really empathetic villains. They aren't an interesting or complex antagonist that just simply has a clash with the protagonist. And a lot of the things that they do that causes conflict are just purely out of their own selfish interest to gain power, money, and status. Whereas when we look at Thanos, we can all maybe see how someone can come to that conclusion that there's too many people that are using too many resources or that are destroying our shared environment. And I'm not even trying to get political at all here. We've all seen people throw trash outside of their car on the highway. We've all seen the videos and photos of endless brake lights of traffic. And I'm not saying we all agree that there's too many people, of course not. But more so that we all can at least see why someone would come to that conclusion. And furthermore, that conclusion is clearly not made out of self-interest. It's a problem that we can all understand and affects all of us. So what does Thanos gain by snapping everyone out of existence? Nothing, except his head chopped off by a chubby Thor. But I think it's safe to say that he truly believes that what he was doing is right, and it was for the good of the collective, which is why Dr. Maruki is by far the best villain or antagonist in Persona 5 Royal. Sometimes when talking about that last semester, I read comments from people who say they didn't enjoy that third extra semester that Persona 5 Royal added as much as they enjoyed the base vanilla Persona 5 story. And I can get that to an extent. During that extra semester, the main story of the Phantom Thieves is very much over at this point, and different characters are more the focal point in the third semester. And if you just wanted to spend more time looking at Tamaki's feet up on her desk, well, I guess you can still do that, but the story doesn't progress the main cast as much as it does in base Persona 5. And after the giant climax of killing Yegabola Lala, whatever his name is, almost anything would seem to pale in comparison. But where Persona 5 Royal absolutely blows the rest of Persona 5 away is in its sympathetic villain, Dr. Maruki. So Dr. Maruki is an additional character that was added into the royal version of the game. He's the school counselor that's brought in after the events of Kamoshida to help the kids process the tragic events that happened at the school, which is honestly not a horrible idea because what took place at the school is admittedly pretty horrible. So this is where you meet Dr. Maruki. He is a side character that you can choose to interact with, and you absolutely should, because if you don't progress his confidant ranking, you'll actually get locked out of that third semester and his whole storyline. Let's all take a quick moment to light a candle for those of you who played this 100-hour game only to realize when it was too late that you didn't in fact level up your confidant ranking high enough with Dr. Maruki or Sumire to unlock this content. And let's hope you have a decent save to go back to and fix that mistake, because this extra content is absolutely worth your time. But your time with Dr. Maruki is actually pretty okay. He seems like an interesting, caring guy who likes to talk about philosophy and psychology and always has snacks for you, and his character does seem to fit into the story quite nicely. Doesn't feel forced at all. But as you progress his storyline, he tells you that thanks to his talks with you, he was finally able to finish his research, and this is what turns Dr. Maruki into the villain of the third semester, his research. So, you see, after the events of the original ending, you come back to LeBlanc, but some things aren't right. In fact, some things are downright wrong. Morgana is a human kid. Futaba's mom is alive. Shiho never did the you-know-what. Makoto's parents never died. Haru's father is alive and being nice. I forgot why Ryuji was sad. And Yusuke was still painting with his mentor. And it turns out this research Dr. Maruki was talking about was a little something called altering reality itself, which is interesting because my college did not offer any classes on that subject. But anyway, you see, Dr. Maruki talked with students throughout the semester, and he learned all about their problems. And he even got everyone to say that they wished that the horrible things that happened to them in their lives never happened. And that's what Maruki did. He changed everyone's reality so that none of the horrible things that happened to all of the characters throughout the game ever happened. Now, that's kind of a tricky villain, isn't it? How are you supposed to hate a guy that wants the best for you, that wants to take away your pain and suffering? It's honestly a really unique villain because he doesn't want to hurt you, he refuses to fight you, and it seems like all he wants is for you and your friends to be happy. What's even more wild is that Maruki gives you a few weeks to think about it, to think it all over and decide if you really want to fight him, or if you're just going to decide to be cool with all these changes and just go along with this new reality. And the game actually lets you go along with it. And if you do that, you actually unlock a cutscene where everyone's just happy and the game's over. And it's like supposed to be a bad ending, but it's like kind of this weird like good ending. Like you can just decide that he is right in what he did and you can be fine with it. And this is just so freaking good because it flips everything on its head. You're now all of a sudden deciding whether or not to fight to have all of your problems and tragedies back in your life, or whether to just live in a world where all of your pain is taken away. Now, this is something that a lot of Persona fans are split on, and I can totally see why. Now, just think about it for a second. Something horrible that happened to you when you were younger or somebody that you love. There's so many different things. Like, there can be death, being bullied, physical injuries. And honestly, thinking about it, there are extreme cases where I can absolutely see myself doing the same thing that Maruki did, or being okay with it. I honestly don't know what I would choose if I really had to make the choice that he presents you with. I, like so many other people that played this game, sat with that question over the few weeks where it lets you think about it, and while it seems clear that the right choice is to reject his new reality for you, it's just not easy to explain why. I did think about this a lot, and I don't know that I have an answer that everyone's going to agree with. But this is why I decided to make this video, because it's actually compelling for me to think about. This game has actually made me think about my true beliefs for real life questions, and what I really believe is true. Let me tell you what I came up with, and of course you can feel free to give me your take on it and why you agree or disagree with it. For me, this is the peak of video games. It's why I started a YouTube channel, because some games have the ability to make you think about questions and put you in situations that I think are just a little bit more compelling, or they just do it in a different way than maybe a movie can. I mean, movies can do these types of things as well, but there's just something about a video game putting you in the driver's seat. You're able to make that choice in game and see the consequences that is just super unique to gaming and story-based games. So one thing I have been able to rationalize to explain what Maruki did was wrong was the fact that he did it to other people without their permission. So he took away people's free will, which would feel very violating. And extreme cases aside, I think that most people can agree that our realities, all the culmination of good and bad that's ever happened to us, has made each of us who we are today. And if you are living a life that you're proud of, then overcoming whatever hardships you had to overcome to get where you are today is part of your identity. And I don't think that you'd want to be that person that never overcame them. Because if you didn't, you clearly would be a weaker person. Because as the saying goes, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And if you believe this and you have strived to become a better person, a stronger person in your life, then I think you learn to see your mistakes, failures, and pain as lessons if you choose to learn from them. And I believe that in fact, that is the journey of being a human. That is what we model our heroes' stories after, their abilities to overcome the most horrendous circumstances. And I think that it's wrong to simply take this opportunity away from people, because without challenge, we all become an NPC or a side character in our own story. We stay weak, and you can't take away the ability for people to become the hero of their own story, no matter if it's done out of mercy or good intentions. Because even if tragedy is averted for now, it's still inevitable for us all. We will know people who die. We will be hurt, because that is what happens to human beings. It's inescapable. And it's this reason that Maruki is one of the best villains that I've ever seen in any video game. It's not because he's some evil man trying to control everything or gain power or wealth, but he's doing what he's doing out of sympathy, because he knows how it feels to have his heart broken, to live through tragedy, and he doesn't want others to feel that hurt that he's felt. It's kind of like a parent that doesn't let their kid go out and play because they're afraid that they're gonna scrape their knee. He has great intention, which is why Maruki fits into that antagonist category instead of just being a pure evil villain. He simply has adversarial goals to the heroes of the story, and that tension is what makes for a grand, complex, and exciting conclusion to a phenomenal game. Though, if you've played Persona 5 Royal, and I hope you have, because I would hate to think that I just spoiled all of that for you, then right now you may be saying to yourself, but Genji, Maruki isn't the only villain in Persona 5 that is complex and is more than a one-dimensional evil bad guy. And I'd have to say, you're right. And that's why you're going to subscribe, because we'll be going over a little someone in a future video. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. If you liked this video and you want more videos like this one, please leave a comment below. As you know, I'm kind of a small channel and I'm trying to figure out my niche. I'm trying to figure out what are the types of videos that I can make that people will enjoy. So if this was one of them, please let me know. I love the feedback. And also, like I said, let me know why you disagree. I know a lot of people absolutely disagree. They think Maruki was right, and there's some valid points to be made. So I'll see you in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.